Thank you. I'd like to thank my colleague from the state of Missouri. Having the opportunity to work with Senator Blunt, my co-chair of the Law Enforcement Caucus, has been a terrific experience and an opportunity over several years and several Congresses now for more than a dozen conversations where we invite law enforcement leaders from around the country, folks to talk about partnership between federal, state, and local law enforcement, intelligence sharing, equipment issues, the policy and operational issues that allow us to provide needed support for the men and women of law enforcement. It's my honor to join with several of my colleagues today to recognize the men and women of law enforcement as part of National Police Week. Together, we offer our gratitude, our support to the men and women of law enforcement and their families who together support our communities. It is only May, yet my home state of Delaware has already been reminded of the tremendous risks and great sacrifices made by law enforcement officers and their families. In February of this year, Lieutenant Stephen Floyd of the Delaware Department of Correction was killed on the job in a prison riot in Smyrna at the Delaware Correctional Center. He was a 16-year veteran of the department and left behind his wife of 28 years, Sandra, his children, Candace, Stephen Jr., and Shavante, and 2 grandsons. And just last month, Corporal Stephen Ballard of the Delaware State Police was senselessly gunned down investigating a suspicious vehicle. Corporal Ballard had served with the Delaware State Police for 8.5 years and left behind his wife, Louise, and his daughter, Abigail. Delawareans are still grieving for the loss of both of these brave men in the line of duty. As we recognize the entire law enforcement community from across our country during National Police Week, we should honor their sacrifice by serving them as well as they serve us. This week and every week, we must do everything we can to honor our obligations to fallen heroes and their families. In the wake of these losses in Delaware, I'm committed to continuing to work with my colleagues across the aisle and across the country, like Senators Klobuchar and Cornyn and Senator Blunt, to make sure our officers have the resources they deserve to do their jobs and to come home safely at the end of every shift. That means continuing to champion programs like the Bulletproof Vest Partnership, which literally saves officers' lives. Delaware knows the importance of this long-running program all too well. 2 of our Delaware Capitol Police officers who were shot in the line of duty survived due to bulletproof vests provided through this vital and ongoing federal-state partnership. I'll also continue to work here in the Senate with colleagues to reform the Public Safety Officers Benefits Program to make sure the families of officers who lose their lives or are permanently disabled in the line of duty receive the benefits they deserve. Chairman Grassley, who has just joined us here on the floor, is one of the lead co-sponsors of this bill, along with Senators Hatch and Gillibrand, and Senator Klobuchar is one of many co-sponsors. This is a bill that will take important steps in these reforms, and it is just itself one step away from passing the Senate, and my understanding is could head to the House of Representatives as early as later today. Of course, Mr. President, our commitment to serving the men and women of law enforcement has to extend beyond the patrol car and the police station. Building and maintaining trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve is essential to preventing and reducing crime and keeping officers safe. That's why Senator Blunt and I have both taken steps to encourage the strategy of community policing that helps officers do their job more effectively in partnership with local communities. We've also continued to support local officials who are working to bring federal resources, expertise, and convening power to help strengthen the bonds between police and the communities they serve. In light of all these efforts, we can't let ideology or partisan politics in this chamber prevent us from doing our jobs in support of law enforcement. We will have failed those who serve us if we do so. We have to move forward in a bipartisan way to improve and invest in officer safety. That's why I'm proud to stand with my colleague and partner from Missouri as co-chairs of the Law Enforcement Caucus. The mission of this bipartisan group is simple: to bring law enforcement, community leaders, issue experts, and Republicans and Democrats together to share ideas and generate solutions to the challenges facing state and local law enforcement. We've hosted more than a dozen briefings and events, and now more than ever, Senator Blunt and I are committed to this mission. Mr. President, we're on the floor today to honor women and men like Corporal Ballard and Lieutenant Floyd from Delaware, who put on the uniform and the badge every day, not knowing whether they'll come home at the end of their shift. We're here today for their families, whose sacrifice and burden is heavy. When I attended Corporal Ballard's moving memorial service earlier this month, the most powerful speaker among many was his widow, Louise. She stood up, stood tall, and with a smile on her face, thanked the 3,000 officers from 36 states across the country who'd come to stand in solemn procession and honor Corporal Ballard's sacrifice and pay their respects. Louise Ballard said, quote, "This is my Stevens victory, when I get to see men and women from all over the country who every single day get up and do a job that's hard, a job that requires heart. Few jobs, Mr. President, are as hard or require as much heart as patrolling our streets and protecting our communities. This week, together, we honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers whose names have been added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this year, and the hundreds of thousands, even millions, who even today, even tonight, will be on patrol, keeping our communities and our families safe. With that, Mr. President, I'd like to yield to the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, my colleague from Iowa and partner in legislating in the interests of law enforcement.